Hi, welcome to Quad Pod. As you can see, a gentleman that a lot of Exeter fans will need no introduction. He's put himself down as Glenn, but for those that don't know, Glenn Cronin, how are you? Are you well?
Really good, thanks. Thanks, Al. Delighted to be on. Thanks for getting in touch, yeah.
And I'm delighted to have you now. I'm going to share that for whatever reason, we've had a slight technical problem. So the first 2 minutes, we're going to go back through things, but we decided to start again. That was the best thing to do. Right, welcome to Quad Pod. For me, this is like a Panini sticker, being a little kid, although I'm only, I think, 10, 12 years older than you. It's a holy grail for me. Exeter player. You are captain the club, which we'll talk about later. You are a coach in the Champions League, which we'll talk about in a little while. Although the first leg this year has not gone so well, but I'm sure you will recover. You're a coach in your own right, and it's Irish Football Club, which is a first for me. So because you're a coach of Shamrock Rovers, aren't you, Glenn?
Correct, yeah.
So Champions League then. We talked about the Champions League. First Champions League coach on Quad Pod. You played the other night. Just explain what happened.
Yeah, we were beat 1-0. We probably wasn't our best performance. We played against a good team, Breidablik from Iceland, and we probably had better chances in the game, but wasn't their best performance. So, but something definitely we can turn around on Tuesday. We fly out to Iceland on Sunday, so hopefully we can turn it around on Tuesday.
And in the warm-up, you suggested that you perhaps didn't take your chances, and you're still well in the game by the sounds of it. Yeah,
we had the best chances in the game. I think they scored from a free kick from a good distance out, and they went through the wall, so it was a bit unlucky. And then they had a header in the game. That was it, really. We had 2-3 really good one-on-one chances that we should have scored. So, so look at all to play for when we go out there on Tuesday.
And I will be taking an interest now because I've been looking at it. And we'll talk about it later, actually, because I know that you guys, it looks like you've played all summer, judging by the fixtures, but we'll come back to that if we may. But let's talk about you first, right? So you came over to Exeter as a youth, I believe, and I think we signed you when you were about 18. Is that right?
No, so I came over on trial when I was 15, 16. I would have been going on trial to a few English clubs at the time. Came over here, didn't know much about the club, but came for a week and loved it. Came for a week and stayed in the digs in Heavitree. There was a lot of YTS boys there at the time, and just made me feel so welcome, and just really good people and good lads. So I was delighted. This when I got offered the contract, I was delighted and signed. Yeah,
brilliant. And how did it come about? Was that through a scouting system? How did you find about Exeter?
Yeah, there's a lad over here that I think at the time would have wrote to the club, a few clubs to try and do a bit of scouting for them to try and get players away, and that he got in touch, and obviously they allowed him to do a bit of scouting, and I think there was a bit of a fundraiser at the time. I remember when we were on trial, I think we were actually brought out onto the pitch at a first team game.
Right.
Someone presented some money, I think, to say this is where your money's gone. We've got these lads over on trial, and so yeah, that's how it came about. And then we went and obviously went and signed, and delighted to sign.
You've just brought back a memory. I think I was at that game. So you started, and let's give a bit of context to Exeter at the time. It was absolutely a madhouse of off the pitch. I think it's fair to say, not in terms of playing and management staff. I mean, the financial side of the club. And I think your first, he might not have brought you in, but your first manager was Noel Blake, wasn't it? I guess.
Noel Blake was giving me debut. Peter Fox was the manager when I signed.
Yeah.
And then Noel Blake was the man that gave me debut. Yeah.
And he is a crazy character, and a pretty formidable character. Yeah.
Yeah, he's tough man, Blakey. The boss, he liked to be called. But a good man. He was a good man, a really good man. Principles and standards, and when you think about the role I'm in now, there's lots to be learned from people like Blakey. So when you think back, a great man, yeah, and obviously, forever grateful for handing me my debut.
And I know that when we were talking off camera earlier, you revealed that he used to stay in the digs with the team.
So if he didn't go home on the weekend, or he'd stay in the digs during the week, and then sometimes if he didn't go home, he'd stay on the weekend, which ruined the nights out a little bit on the weekends. But meant to stay in, obviously. But,
oh no, that was a bit of a party.
Yeah, no, he was brilliant.
Yeah, he didn't mind you going out then, or just like he just didn't. Or did he go out with you?
Well, look, put it this way: if you went out and everybody knew you were out.
Brilliant.
It's
brilliant. So you joined the club, and I think you made your debut at 18. Is that right? Did I get that right?
I think I was 19. When I made my debut, yeah.
And you were captain fairly quickly after that, weren't you?
Yeah, I played. I think I made my debut 18, 19, and then Neil McNabb made me captain for a game. I think it was away to Scunthorpe. Just told me before the game you're going to be captain. I think our captain at the time was injured. I can't remember who it was. Might have been Chris Curran or something like that. I can't remember, but he made me captain, and I loved it. Yeah, I loved it. Straight on. I would have been quite vocal anyway as a young player in terms of being on the pitch, so I wouldn't have changed much in terms of how I would have managed the game or played the game, or spoke to people. So it was just a real honour. Someone that had come through the youth system and set up to captain in the youth team, to captain in the first team was obviously a real honour,
Yeah, no, I can guess that. The leadership you would have needed to show would have been pretty high. That's probably why you're coach where you are now, because they were not so good times on the pitch, I think, because of what was going on off the pitch. Is that fair to say in terms of the club stability?
I think so. I think maybe more so for the older players in the squad, when you only probably realise that as you get older yourself, where I didn't have any worries or concerns really. I moved away from my family to play football, and that it was as simple as that for me. It was never about money, or it was just about getting into the first team, where we had an older dressing room, so there was lads that were trying to pay mortgages and pay for school books or wherever it was. So they seen the other side of it, and they knew what was going on. I think as young players, we were probably more protected from that than anything,
Yeah. So what were the high points for you in terms of games? What stand out for you?
Look, we'd so many great games. Obviously, my debut away to Rochdale is one that always sticks out for me, because it's your dream is to play in the football league as a young footballer, and at whatever level you reach. So it didn't bother me. My aim was always, when I went over to Exeter, was to play in the first team. So when you walk into the dressing room and see your name on the back of your jersey and your squad number, it's you've earned that, and it's something that makes you very proud. So I think coming on in that game, at half time, I hit the crossbar within 10 minutes, and I thought, this is easy. I thought, this is easy. I don't think I scored a goal for another 4 years. I had a shot. For 4 years, but.
At this point, I should thank, and you know what I'm going to say now. I sent you a WhatsApp message of your goal away at Barnet, which was one of, I think it was 6. Did you score 6 goals? 5 goals? Well, it's at least 5 or 6 goals.
I tell the kids 8 just to cover myself.
Yeah. But I want to picture the scene, and I want to thank Nick Brave, one of the guys that supports the podcast, which I sent it across to you, because it's a great little clip, because it shows you scoring a goal, but it also shows Sean Devine getting sent off. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, probably, yeah.
I thought his sending off was a little bit harsh looking back. Well, did you think the same as you were watching it?
Look, I think at that time I had a few sending offs myself, so I wouldn't. It was never sending off. Put it that way. It was never sending off.
Never sending off, exactly. So let's. I think you also played in the oldest. Burton away 4-3. Were you in that game, or were you injured?
Yeah, I did. No, we played in that game. I think I played in that game. They were for me. I think that was the year I was coming back from my ACL. I remember that being a tough year. Like, you know, I think that was me. So I'd been out for 9 months with an ACL. Came back, played Burton away under Nigel Clough, I think was the manager. So I remember just trying to get going that year. I was finding it tough to get back to probably the levels I was at before the injury. I remember the game. I remember it being a tough game. Pitch was heavy. It was proper. And I remember just trying to fighting to try and get myself in the game. So it was a tough one for me that now you bring it up, remember it. Look, still great memories. And I can't remember not enjoying many games, even at them times.
And at this point, I think you'll completely understand it, and it seems appropriate to put it in at this point. I was going to put a little shout out at the end to an Exeter player called Kyle Taylor, who did a very serious ACL injury at Oldham away about 18 months ago. And it was very innocuous. So I was at the game. Nobody was near him. And he has literally just got himself back to play. And your talk about, getting back into the games, right? He's just sprained his ankle in pre-season training and he's out for another 3 weeks. It's been announced. And I'm sure you'll join me in saying, look, it's only a few days. He's coming back, hopefully, and to keep going, because it must be tough coming back from an injury, huh? Yeah,
it's very tough. I think the big thing for me was coming back when I got injured. It was a mindset for me in terms of what I wanted to try and use the injury to get fitter and stronger. Use that time to change my body to come back better than before. I think I did physically, definitely, but I think maybe the football side of it, there's probably a combination of probably how I was asked to play to how I was played pre-injury. Things were a little bit different. The team was a little bit different, and obviously form. I found that I had glimpses of form of before the injury, and it was hard to get back to that level. And then I think 3 months before the end of that season, I broke my foot. So it was you work so hard to get back, and similar to the lad you're talking about there, when another injury comes along, soon enough it's disheartening and it's hard on players, But
it is.
Still went on to play a lot after, so there's no issues like that.
Yeah, and looking at your career, it's a good point to 143, 150 odd games for Exeter. You did 4 at Chester City in 2 seasons afterwards. That was a bit tough by the sound of it. And then Bohemians 96 and Shelbourne. So, but 278 appearances. So, did Exeter? It's never easy to say. Did they release you because of the injury? I can't remember.
Yeah, so I remember I still had a year left on my contract. I never wanted to leave at the time. I loved it there. My wife was pregnant. We bought a house there, and I remember Alex Singlethorpe phoned me and said Mark Wright wants to bring me to Chester, and I had a broken foot at this point. So obviously I said, look, I don't want to go. I have a year left on my contract, and the conversation was, I don't think I can offer you that contract at the end of this following year. And so the decision was kind of made. Mark was offering me security at the time, for my family, my wife and my unborn child. So I think it was kind of decision kind of forced on me a little bit. And I spoke to Alex about it since at the time, so it was Yeah, it was probably a bit of both. I had a chance to come back then. There was a problem with the contract, and I think maybe my ego took over a little bit, thinking, well, you were willing to let me go. So yeah, listen, it was a club that I definitely, and still is, I'm very fond of, and so to leave was difficult for me and my wife, like, you know. So,
Yeah, I
but
can
look,
imagine.
it's football, isn't it? Like, you know, I think there's no. Again, now I've been back a few times since, and it's great to
Yeah.
see the club thriving, like, you know.
Do you know what, we need to get you back, and I'll talk about that at the end later, because I've got an idea for you.
Right.
So Bohemians and Shelbourne, quite a few games there. What was it like?
Yeah, it was great. Look, again, when I went to Chester, I broke my foot another 2 times.
Wow.
So I kept trying to come back, and it broke again. So eventually I just thought it was time to go home. Chester wasn't a great club at the time. Manager was an absolute cowboy in Mark Wright. So it was time to go. It was time to go home, and I came home. I actually didn't sign for anyone when I came home. I came home and just trained myself for a few weeks, and then I had an offer to go in and train with Bohemians. And the problem I had there was my dad is a massive Shamrock Rovers fan. So you're talking, this is Exeter Plymouth stuff, like, you know. So it was. So when I came back, and I'd agreed a deal. Actually, I'd agreed a deal with Shamrock Rovers when I was at Chester. Came back, couldn't get hold of the guy that had offered me the deal. So I ended up going training with Bohemians and signed for Bohemians. I had a brilliant 4 years there, and we were very successful. We won 2 leagues, Satanta Cup, an FAI Cup, and a League Cup, and we had Champions League qualifiers and European games. So from where I was the previous 2 years, in terms of trying to get back from injury, to go and have great success as soon as I came back was brilliant for me. Like, it was a reward for hard work, I suppose, and staying in there, like, you know.
Yeah. Is your dad still speaking to you now, man? Is he all right?
He forgives me now. But listen, when I became the coach of Shamrock Rovers, it was all forgiven.
Yeah,
so,
of course.
And then
Of course, which brings us really nicely onto Shamrock Rovers, right? Yeah, shoot me down. I've done a little bit of geeky research. I may have got a few things wrong, right? Because it's a trust club, which is, as you know, that means we're in the nicest way, football brothers, as I like to say. A huge history, right? You've talked about Champions League and Europa Cup. First Irish team to reach the group stages of 2 European Cups when they played Partizan Belgrade. Also have played Brazil, like Exeter have, or in Brazil, or Brazil came to play you. I'm not sure. Dublin based in 1899, 8,000 capacity. Won the League of Ireland 20 times and the Cup 25 times. And the supporters saved them from extinction, and they became a homeless club between 1987 and 2009. But they've got a new ground at, I'm going to say Talagat. Is that right?
Close. Tallaght will do.
Tallaght
Stadium, yeah. Tallaght Stadium, yeah.
Tallaght Stadium. So your dad's delighted. So you've come home, right? And the club's booming now, isn't it? It's going well.
Yeah. I think it's definitely taken time. It's I think when we took over as staff, myself and the manager, we were getting gates of 1,200 people. Now we're up to our average is 6.5. Only because of Monday night games. I think if we went Friday to Friday, which is when we play, we fill the stadium.
Right.
So yeah, no, look, it's definitely, the club is flying at the minute. We're on the verge of, please God, we've 11 games left, and we're 4 points clear. We're on the verge of doing 4 in a row, which would be, again, hasn't been done since the 80s, and it was only done once by Shamrock Rovers in the 80s. So it's always been something, when you come into a club like this, that you hear about is the 4 in a row team. The fans still sing about it because it's a proud history. So when you come in as a coach, you want to beat it, you know, you want to do 5 in a row. So so for us to do 3 is incredible. We want to do 4, and we only want to do 5 and 6, hopefully. So, so yeah, now the club's gone really. We landed the FAI Cup in 2019. The club hadn't won it for 30 odd years. So for us to go and win it was probably the best day of my life, I think.
Really?
In the Aviva Stadium, I think there was probably 50,000.
Really?
Your family's there. So yeah, it was a great occasion, great occasion to be able to bring that trophy back to because when you think about it, there was so many Shamrock Rovers supporters that had never seen Rovers lift the cup. So
Really?
to be able to do that is incredible,
That's lovely. And I wanted to talk to you. I've got the opportunity a little bit about the trust. Now, it's got the 400 Club, I believe, right, which is a fans funding group. And I know that once they came support saying you got promotion at first attempt, is another weird fact that I learned. But I believe they were paying to become a member. You had to pay €40 a month. So that's what, about £35?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
And in 2012, that went up to €50 a month, so about £43, I guess. And that's how the club's funded. Or can I ask, is it funded by other stuff? Because it's not just that, surely.
Yeah, so the club is the fans own 50% of the club. The 400 Club was initially a number. Now there's more than 400. I think there's more members now than obviously 400. There's a lifelong Shamrock Rovers fan, Ray Wilson, owns 25%, and Dermot Desmond owns the other 25%.
Right.
Dermot obviously owns Celtic as well, and so they're there too. Part owners obviously, and then the fans own 50%.
Cool. And so do you obviously, like Exeter, probably lots of fan engagement. Do you have like fans forums? How close are they to it, or is it more of a, because at Exeter, for example, there's like quarterly fans reviews, there's reports, all that sort of stuff. There's a lot of detail. Is it like that with the club?
Yeah, well, I think there's AGMs. There's like you said, every quarter there's meetings for the members to meet and discuss any issues. With the board, there's 8 board members with an independent chairman, who obviously run the day-to-day of the club. But there's obviously similar to that to Exeter. There's meetings every quarter, and then there's obviously your AGM and stuff like that. So yeah, very similar in terms of our engagement with the fans as coaching staff and players. We'd be heavily involved in that. We do everything we can to try and get fans involved in what we do, whether that's going to schools or meeting them after games, inviting them into the dressing room, everything that we can do,
And I've noticed it sings out from the website a lot of women's football as well. Yeah,
we've just the women's team, senior women's team, was just launched this year, and they're going great. I think they're the second in the league, I think, at the minute. To some great teams. So we have a couple of the girls that have gone off to the World Cup to play with the international team. So, and then obviously there's underage teams coming along, which is obviously a brand new side for the club, but something that everybody's really excited about,
Good. Sounds good. And it's interesting you say about the World Cup, because that's Australia and New Zealand they're going to, isn't it? Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, I think the first game is Australia. It's sold out, 81,000, I think. So,
where's that? Yeah. Where's the game?
I'm not sure exactly.
Wow.
But yeah, it'd be a great occasion for them.
Cool. Yeah. No, that's good. So clearly going well, right? And I would love us to organise a friendly at some point. I think it would be a really cool thing to do. So I'm just going to put that out there. I've got some questions came in from one of the researchers. He said, we've never asked somebody, right? This is just talking basic football now, right? What does a captain do, right? Now, obviously realise you're captain on the pitch, but what goes on behind the club of a captain? Do you organise things like getting players in and into the group when they come in? Do song initiations, all that stuff? How does it all work? Explain the role of a captain.
Yeah, well, for me, air captain, I could speak about air captain now, but my role at Exeter City, I suppose, was being that link from the dressing room to the manager, but also understanding that the players have to trust me and the manager has to trust me. So there was there's a fine line of being nearly a rat and and stuff that doesn't want to get back to the manager, that shouldn't get back, and then understand if there's problems within the team, that I go and relay that to the manager. Right. If there's something the manager's not happy about, I could probably go to the more senior players about it, and we could discuss it and how we could affect the dressing room, or how we're training, or wherever it may be. I think for me also at the time as a young captain I had to go in and sit in on negotiating bonuses
really?
for players. Yeah, so again, I'm sitting in on a conversation. I'm 21. I'm sitting in a conversation trying to represent a man with 2 kids or 3 kids and has a mortgage. So it was that was all a bit strange for me, and you don't want to let them down, and you're nervous because the older players are letting you know when you're going up into that office, you need to get where you can get here, and then it's managing standards around the training ground, understanding that you would have fines. So if you're late for training, you need to let your teammate know he's late and there's a fine to be paid. And then if there's obviously the publicity side of everything outside of where you have to go and public relations and stuff like that, where the manager needs you to go and be somewhere, you go and be somewhere to represent the club. And I had the great pleasure of when Brazil came over to go and have dinner with them, because obviously I was the captain, and I had they were getting welcome to the city, and we went for some dinner with the team and that. So listen, there's some amazing perks to it. And again, look, there was nothing that, I don't think it's anything that is too difficult. It's most players do it anyway now. I think there's enough leaders around now in dressing rooms to carry on. I suppose the biggest thing is he's the closest to the manager in terms of driving standards, and
does it vary in terms of teams? Because obviously we're just fans, we don't get to see all that. Let's be honest. It's like sometimes the managers, you're trying to get something across, they're not doing it well. Do you sometimes just go, look, whoever, I'll leave it. No, give me a minute. I'll talk to the lads. Yeah.
I don't think I'd ever talk over the manager in terms of a half time or anything like that. I think there's the manager might pull you and say, listen, I need you to get more out of whoever. Is he living right? Can you tell him how you live? Can you tell him how you eat, whatever you do? Or we need to get him on side. He's going to be a big player for us, or little things like that, where I suppose you're trusted by the manager to go and to get people on side,
Yeah, no, I get that. So thanks for asking those questions. Oh, sorry, I've got one bit we missed out. What about referees?
What?
Yeah. What about you're smiling.
Yeah.
What about them?
No, ask me the question and I'll tell you the answer.
Okay, so do you go to the referees before the match? Do they come in there? Do they giving you what this?
I don't think it's done anymore. I remember we used to have to go in as captain with the opposition captain, and you'd sit in with the referee, and he'd tell you basically the rules and what he expects from you as a captain, and which again was difficult as well when you're young. I was probably the one getting sent off more than anybody, so that probably didn't help. But that was learning, I suppose. But you go in and. You go in, he give you the rules, what he expects from you, what he expects from your teammates. If there's an issue, he'll come and speak to me. It's up to me then to relay it to my teammates in terms of what's expected and what's allowed and what's not allowed. But no, a lot of referees were very good at that.
Do you know what underlines that? as a 20-year-old, it's quite an achievement to become captain of a football club. So I know it's happened. I can think of a few other people. John Delve, actually, who was part of the EP1 team. I had the pleasure of interviewing him a little while ago, and he was quite a young captain. And it is all about the leadership quality, isn't it? It just happens to be there. So fair play. Thanks for answering that question. I really appreciate it. So look, I'm conscious, right? And sorry, a bit of context for everybody. You've done training today. It's been a howling gales, and you've just got back in, and it is late on a Friday afternoon, right? So I want to say thank you for coming on. You've been absolutely brilliant, and I will be looking out for your results even more so. I know on the 18th you've got a job to do. In fact, one last question on it. You're playing all summer, aren't you? How does that work?
Yeah, so our season starts in February and finishes in November. We play through the summer, yeah. So and obviously we play Friday nights because we're competing with the Premier League on a Saturday at 3:00. So we play Friday nights, yeah, and summer football up for the pitches, to help us with pitches here, and a lot of the teams now are full time, but haven't always been. Probably in the last 5-6 years, a lot of teams have gone full time. It's changed in the past where when I was playing here, a lot of teams would have been full time. Then there was the crash. A lot of teams would have went part time. So pitches wouldn't have been great. Where now there's a lot of full time staff at clubs, and the league is going from strength to strength. And so summer football is to basically also protect the pitches and get crowds out on Friday evenings.
Do you know what? I never. What am I? I'm way into my early 50s, and I never knew that was the case. So, and I do love learning things about football. Look, thanks for asking the question. Absolute pleasure to have you on. I know that everybody's going to really enjoy catching up with you, and will be following you. I want to say thank you to Brian for doing the homework and getting the contact, because we wouldn't have spoken. You were one of those people I wanted to get, because I've been asked by you a few times. Good luck in the away leg. Go smash it. Make sure you win. Bring it home, yeah?
Thanks, Al. Really appreciate it. Great being on.
Absolute pleasure.